If you've got dresses hiding at the back of your closet that you never wear, don't get rid of them quite yet, because I'm going to show you some fabulously simple ways to transform them into wardrobe favorites. I'm Refashionista Sheri, and I show you how to use what you have to make what you want. So let's get making. Let's take this frumpy fitting but absolutely beautifully embroidered dress and make it into something I actually want to wear. First, I figured out how long I want the top to be, and then I just marked it with a pin, leaving, of course, about 1 centimeter or 2 of seam allowance, and then I'm just going to chop on through and give it a nice clean hem. And the shirt could be done now. But looking at the bottom of the chopped piece here, I think I'm going to remove this lovely lace and then stitch it onto the bottom of the shirt, and it's going to look super awesome. Because my first idea, of course, was to just chop this, make an elastic casing, and make this into a cute little top and skirt set, but I don't want to do that, and I'm not a big skirt wearer. So I think, yeah, we're going to remove this lace, put it on here, and then we're going to use the rest of the bottom to make an adorable tote bag. The shirt is now complete, so let's go make an easy tote bag from the scraps. I took apart the remaining chopped bottom into 2 pieces, and I'm going to use the plain piece for the strap, and of course the piece that still has some lovely embroidery left on it for the bag. I like my tote bags to have a fairly long strap so I can wear it like a crossbody bag, and then I have my hands free. So I'm just gonna cut this plain piece of fabric in half, stitch the ends together, and then fold it in half again into a tube, stitch that together to create a long strap. Okay, the strap is completed and pressed with the iron, so it's nice and crisp. Now, all I'm going to do to make the actual bag part is stitch this together, of course, with the right sides facing, and leave the top part open. My lovely little tote bag is almost finished now, and you can see here I did also box the corners, so when we flip it right side out, and you can see there's my lovely little squared off bottom corners, and I just think it gives the bag a nicer look, plus it makes it a bit sturdier. And speaking of sturdier, I'm going to add a quick lining to this just so it can hold a little bit more weight than without the lining. I had this lovely colorful checkered scrap in my stash, so I have it folded in half. And I have my bag inside out again, and I'm just gonna lay it together and then chop it to size and stitch it up. I've already stitched the strap on to the inside of the bag. Now I'm just going to pop the lining in, making sure that I have the wrong sides facing, of course, and line everything up, and then I just have to go stitch them together, and the bag is going to be finished. Love the dress but hate the length? Here's my simple fix. All you need is your frumpy vintage dress, a dress that has your ideal length, scissors, and your sewing gear. For your first step, simply lay that Dowdy dress on a flat surface. Then place the perfectly fitting dress on top with the shoulder seams and underarm seams lined up. Then go ahead and mark the length of the top dress onto the bottom dress, making sure you give yourself a few centimeters of seam allowance. And then chop off that excess length. If your dress is made out of a non-fraying fabric, you can be done and just pop it on and enjoy now. However, if it's made out of something like mine is, and as you can see here, it is totally fraying without any help at all, then you want to go ahead and fold it under a couple of times and give it a nice clean hem. Now, because my fabric was quite slippery polyester, my final seam on the hem wasn't exactly super straight, so I went ahead and covered up my wonky seam with some groovy vintage rickrack trim. Luckily, I had enough trim left over to give some detail around that plain neckline as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough trim to go around the armholes, but the dress looks fantastic. Sometimes a quick shorten and sleeve refashion is all a dress needs to make it funky again. Take that frumpy long sleeve dress and flip it inside out and lay it on your table, and then you're just going to very carefully chop off the sleeves. Then with those sleeves you want to mark about how long you would like your finished sleeves to be, and then chop them, and then simply pop the chopped bottoms of the sleeves back into the armholes, stitch them together, and your fab dress is nearly done. Shorten it if you want to, and then go rock your awesome updated dress. If the top of your dress just doesn't fit right, just replace it. All you need is a maxi dress or a maxi skirt, plus a top that coordinates well, or at least has a pattern mix that you love. The first thing that I'm going to do is chop off the top part, so the skirt part will be my ideal length. So you can see here that the skirt actually has a lining in it, and I do want to keep that because this fabric is quite thin, so I'm just going to go do a really quick stitch all the way around to secure the lining to the exterior fabric. The width of the shirt is not that different from the width of the skirt, so I think what I'm going to do is go gather up the edge of the skirt fabric with my machine and see how close I can get it to the width of the top, and then stitch them together. What I did was set all of the different settings here to like the loosest that they would go. So I have the loosest stitch, the loosest thread tension, and of course also the longest stitch length. And I'm also stitching with the straight stitch. Now I have the skirt gathered, I have the bottom of the top gathered, now let's go put them together. So I'm just going to flip the skirt over top of the top so the right sides will be facing. Ta-da! And I just need to kind of pull the gathers a little bit open on the top so I can get it to perfectly match up with the skirt. Okay, now let's go stitch them together. Bodice too tight? Here's how to make it fit better without sewing. All you need is your garment that is too tight in your chesticle area, and of course your handy dandy seam ripper. This technique only works if you have the double seams on the inside of your garment. So you can see here the outside seam was serged, but then we also have this interior seam, and that is what we are going to be removing. And this should give me at least 2 or 3 more centimeters of space, which is all I need. So this technique absolutely does work when you just need that little bit of extra room to make the garment more comfortable. All you have to do is figure out where you need to be removing your seams. And so for me, I'm going to do along the shoulders and the sleeves and on the sides of the bodice here, because that's where I need that little bit of extra space. And then you just take your handy seam ripper and remove, if I can get it, yes, this interior second seam. And of course, you absolutely do want to leave the exterior finished edge here. And if you do have a sewing machine or are proficient with hand sewing, you can, of course, make this seam extra strong and sturdy by simply stitching over it again if you're at all worried about it coming apart. But it's not absolutely necessary, and this means this is a totally no-sew refashion. So I just want to show you how truly easy this is. Once you get started with removing your seam, you should be able to just pull, like look at this, I'm just pulling and all that thread, look, you can just rip it off there, has come off, and look at that. I have increased the size of my sleeve here by about a full centimeter, which is actually quite a bit when you think that this is going to be on both sides. So truly my bodice is going to be upsized by 2 centimeters, which, as I said, is more than enough. A new color and a button switch can completely transform a dress. So for this, you will need a cotton shirt dress or any cotton dress, plus some fabric dye and your scissors. So the first thing I did with this was to chop off the collar. I then chopped off the sleeves, and both, of course, as close to the seam as possible, so it still left me with a finished edge. Now, when I dyed things in Germany, I was really lucky because they had fabric dye that you could just put into the washing machine. So along with the fabric dye, as always, I added a 500-gram package of salt because it really helps to keep the dye fresh. Then I switched out the buttons to these fancy ones, and my awesome no-sew dress was complete. This Frumpy bridesmaid's dress is now wearable again. Here's how I did it. You'll need your frumpy yet fabulous maxi dress, a dress that has your ideal length, scissors, and your sewing gear. So your first step is to simply lay the dress with your ideal length on top of the maxi dress with the shoulder seams evenly lined up. So now that my dress has been shortened and given a nice clean hem, it is time to grab the chopped bottom fabric and create some sleeves. So the first thing I'm going to do is chop through the side seams to create 2 pieces of fabric. So before we get stitching our sleeves together, we need to know exactly what size to make them. So the first thing you want to do is measure your armhole. I have grabbed one of my pieces of chopped fabric and I'm going to fold it in half. Alrighty. Then grab my measure and from the folded edge, measure that 24 centimeters, but then add another centimeter for safety seam allowance. Now I need to decide how I want the shape of my sleeves to be. I could just go straight down and make it just a totally straight sleeve. I could go at an angle this way and have it kind of tapered at the end, getting smaller. But I think I want mine to be a little bit more full on the end, so I'm going to stitch outward to hopefully, fingers crossed, create kind of a bell sleeve look. Once you're done stitching, chop off the excess and your sleeve is nearly ready for action. Now, instead of doing the whole measuring and everything all over again, I always find it easier to use my completed sleeve as a template to create my other sleeve. And I now have 2 lovely, lovely sleeves. They have been hemmed up nicely, and it is definitely time to add them to the dress. So now you want to have your sleeve right side out and your dress inside out. So when you put them together, it will be right sides facing. So grab your sleeve, pop it into the armhole, and you want to make sure that the seam on the sleeve is lined up with the underarm seam of the armhole. And then go stitch it all together. And my sleeves are attached, so let's flip this right side out and see the final result. This is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to go try it on. I hope that you are never going to look at those frumpy dresses at the back of your closet the same again. And I want to know which one of these tutorials is your favorite and which one you're actually going to use. They might not be the same one, right? If you want to go even deeper into your rockin' refashionista journey, I highly recommend having a scroll through my channel and my blog, because over the years I have shared literally hundreds, if not thousands, of fab-free tutorials. And if you want to go even deeper and, connect with me personally so we can go through your wardrobe, then pop on over to refashionistasheri.com and join my wardrobe revolution. Should you want to take a peek behind the scenes, though, my Refashionista crew is always looking for new members. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.